Chad. The topic of today's video is going to be on water, both some of its uses in the body and the importance of getting quality water. I mentioned this a lot in my videos about making sure that you're drinking quality water, and I've had a lot of questions as to what exactly do I mean by that. So what we'll get started with is water, if you didn't know, is pretty important. We're mostly made up of water, and you get it from the water that you drink, and hopefully you're eating fruits and vegetables and you get a lot of water through that as well. And it's used for a tremendous amount of processes in the body, and you could basically look at yourself similar to that of a battery. If you don't have enough hydration in you and you don't have quality water, the conductivity within your body isn't going to be as good. And this isn't woo-woo stuff. If you look at the function of a cell, it becomes pretty obvious that if you have poor water or not enough water, then you're not going to function up to the level that you could potentially do. Now, what I mean by quality water is preferably spring water, if you can get that. And by spring water, I'm talking about the type that you actually go and get. So, the stuff that, have you ever seen the pipe coming out of the side of the road that's they'll have, a lot of times you'll see them more rural areas, and that's preferably where you would want to get them. There are some springs in my area that are in more populated sections of a town, and I've always just I show up these places and I'll just forego them even if I drove an hour. And so the spring that I use the most is actually an hour away from me. Now, to a lot of people that might sound crazy that I drive an hour each way to get water, but trust me, it's made such a tremendous benefit to myself, and as well as, that's all my dog drinks, and it's just, I don't know, I used to drink distilled water. I was very much in the distilled water camp. And more or less, it truly is dead water. If you do a search on distilled water, you'll sometimes see that. And there are people who I do have some respect for that do recommend distilled water, but oftentimes you'll notice that they are actually adding minerals and things back into the water. Me, myself, if I can get it straight from the source as I would, normally if I were just out in the woods, that's what I go for. Now, the types of containers that I use to get my water, I'll show you both of them. The first one is glass. So I only have one of these things. I used to have 5 of them, but there's actually a lot of them broke, and I got a funny story on that in a second. But the benefits of glass is obviously it's time tested. There's nothing that's going to leach into it, and when you get these big jugs, you can get them at brewing stores. You can find them online, Amazon, wherever, and they come in. Typically, you can get little guys that are 3-gallon ones, all the way up to the biggest one I've ever owned was 6 gallons, and so they're beneficial in that you can obviously see inside of it. You can see that it's clean. It's glass, so there's nothing that's going to leach. But the downside is they break easy. I've had a few of them that just because of the how old they were, that just some temperature fluctuations one time on a cool day just popped the bottom of them right off. And a few weeks back, I was coming home from a spring, and I usually fill up my whole vehicle with these big jugs that I have. Usually when I make that hour trek, I'm getting about 50 gallons of water, so it lasts quite a while. And anyways, I have the glass jug, one on the floor in my passenger seat and the other one on the passenger seat, and I had it wrapped up in the seat belt. Well, somebody touched off on their brake really quick in front of me when I was at a stoplight, and I slammed on my brake, and my 6-gallon guy went flying over, smashed on top of the other one, and I had about 6 gallons of water floating around in my on the floor of my car. So that was fun. Anyways, now see, just for the sake of ease, because of my current living conditions, because I'm in an apartment, and just saving on money, at least for the time being, I now roll with these guys. They're plastic, yes. They are BPA free. Are they ideal? No. I mean, these things are certainly better, and of course the most ideal thing would be like if I had a spring in my backyard and I lived in some rural area, but that's not in the cards right now. So I always go for, what is the best that I can do in that specific situation. So I have a whole bunch of these jugs, and basically just go and fill them up. And in terms of locating a spring, there's a great website called findaspring.com. Go there and it gives you a nice mapped out area. And if you do have concerns about the specific location that you're getting it from, ask some of the people in the town. Maybe even just roll up to the town hall. The spring that I get my water from, so many people go there that the town constantly is testing the water. And if there's any hint of some bacterial overgrowth or anything wrong with that, they shut the thing down in terms of they block the whole thing off and say that you can't use it. So there are springs out there that are watched over by people. And they test the water to make sure that there's nothing crazy in there, because that is absolutely paramount. Just because something is natural or comes from nature, it could be completely toxic. Now, the benefit of drinking the spring water versus other, bottled water and obviously tap water. I mean, if you're drinking tap water and you do have other options, please do it, because fluoride is absolutely horrible for your brain. It calcifies pineal gland, doesn't directly cause cancer from what I've seen in the literature, but it shuts down a whole bunch of processes that help your body to remove cancer cells. So that's not good. And obviously chlorinated water is not good for our gut flora. Unfortunately though, it's in our modern times, if you're going to get water, it's through the tap. It kind of has to have something, because our pipes are so old that you figure that they've been there for decades. They've got tons of mold or something like that possibly growing in them, so they kind of have to have a cleaning agent. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. Now, as far as filters, I don't. I have a shower filter, but I've never actually worked with filters for drinking water. If you do go that route, I suggest that you please look into them and see which one is the best, which one as far as testing is concerned. I know that Mike Adams from Natural News, he has his own lab, and there were some water filters that he was testing that they actually came out with more testable toxins than they went in with. So the filters were actually junk and they were causing more toxicity. Now, as far as bottled waters, if I were on the road, I would just get something in glass, and there's a lot of mainstream brands that actually are from spring water sources, and yeah, those aren't the most sustainable thing as far as having glass bottles shipped from halfway around the world. But once again, doing good, better, best. A lot of bottled waters are in fact just tap water, so you've got to watch out for that too. You could be drinking a bottled water that's just straight tap water and it's actually got chlorine in it, and you're paying $2 a bottle to do that. Now, as far as anything else, yeah, I mean, with the distilled, there's some that say that it's good. To me, it doesn't intuitively make sense to have something stripped down, and there's certain volatile compounds, VOCs, that could potentially be concentrated in the water because because of their molecular structure when they do evaporate and recondense. So you could actually be having water that is more toxic and it's more concentrated. As far as, I guess I really won't get into water chemistry. If you really want to go down like the rabbit hole and see some really, really cool things regarding water, check out the book Fourth Phase of Water by Gerald Pollack. There's also, I know that there's at least 1 or 2 good talks by him on YouTube. It's just freaking amazing. It's all about like water. It has the ability to gel, and that may sound impractical, but it just shows that on a deeper level, as far as our cells are concerned, there's a good possibility that our cells are actually turning this water into that different phase, and it has something called an exclusion zone, which has a whole bunch of potentials there. It's great, it's cool, check it out if you like that kind of thing. Anyways, that's that for today. Subscribe, send me any questions or comments that you might have, share it, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.